All right, y'all. What a game from Miami and Ole Miss, man. I ain't gonna lie, I just got done watching it. They just Miami just beat Ole Miss 31-27. It's currently, if y'all can see on my phone, it's 10:52 right now. I'm at the time of this video, I'm making it. So, good game by Miami. Actually, a good game by Ole Miss as well, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Both offenses played really well. Now, I'm gonna say this right now: Trinidad Chambliss and Carson Beck both played good games. Besides Carson Beck's one pick, these two quarterbacks played their tails off in the semifinal of the CFP, and that's the bottom line. But there's always going to be that better team, and in this case, it's the Miami Hurricanes. So starting off with the Ole Miss offense, Trinidad Chambers, like I said, did this thing: 277 yards, one touchdown, and also the run game did pretty well. Kawan Lacey, 11 carries, 103 yards, one touchdown. That's about 9 yards to carry. Only if Kwan Lacey wasn't injured with a hamstring, finding himself in and out the game, he probably would have been able to play longer and probably would have had more yards and been a bigger impact on the offense. But it got to a point where Chambliss had to rely on the pass game, and it got to a point where Miami defense did catch on to that, so especially towards the end of the game. And it did help the Miami offense because they were able to do different things. Because as you can see with the Miami offense, you got Carson Beck, who has 268 yards, two touchdowns, and only that one interception. It was a deflected ball and it got intercepted. But then you also got Mark Fletcher, who had 22 carries for 133 yards, and that's the running back. And the flexibility in their offense did stand out. You got Keelan Marion, who had 7 receptions for 114 yards and a touchdown, and then Malachi Tony, who was like the X factor of this game. Aside from Marion, Fletcher, and Beck, the person to make big plays was Malachi Tony. Malachi Tony did run the second to last touchdown to put them up against the Rebels. And then also you had Carson Beck, who topped it off with a game winning rushing touchdown. So this Miami offense did do a pretty good job with managing the game and keeping up with Ole Miss offense. Now, Miami's defense, it did become a challenge for them, their first challenge this whole entire playoff, because they did hold teams under 20 points, but this is the first team that scored over 20 points. Chambliss threw to 9 different people. Now, I'm about to name the 9 different people he just threw to in this game. He threw to Stribling. He threw to Caden Lee, Daquan Wright, Harrison Wallace, Logan Diggs, Deuce Alexander, Kawan Lacey, Caleb Odom, Winston Watkins. That shows how good of a quarterback he is. This is not one of them kind of games where he's throwing to one person. This man's throwing to 9 different people in a college football playoff semifinal game. Now, Carson Beck threw to 8, but it was more impressive watching Chandler's play because of how flexible he was. He was able to scramble out the pocket and actually make plays on the run. Uh, Carson Beck in comparison, not really. It got to a point where Beck pocket presence was a little questionable. Sometimes he wanted to scramble outside. When the pocket collapsed, he could have just stepped up in the pocket and threw the ball. Even if it meant getting hit, he still would have completed a pass. Another thing about Carson Beck, he do need to work on the deep ball. It was times where he had a lot of receivers down the field who had their man beat, but Beck threw it short, or Beck overthrew him, or Beck maybe got lucky and got a pass interference call. So in my eyes, Beck does need to work on that before he reaches the CFP national title game, because Indiana or Oregon, whoever's winning tomorrow, is gonna show them that they should not be doing that, right? Indiana's defense is probably, other than Miami, is one of the best defenses in the country. Oregon's defense got a pretty nice little ring to it, right? So with those two teams matching up tomorrow, you don't know what's gonna happen on January 19th, but you just got to be prepared for it. So that's why I say Carson Beck really got to learn how to throw that ball down the field, because other than that, he's doing pretty well. He was able to just throw the ball around, do a little nickel and dime, but he got to learn how to throw that ball down the field. Throw the ball down the field, dude. You really got to do that, because if you don't, then that national title game would just be nothing. Um, Carson Beck did show that he was the better quarterback in all of college football. We remember when Carson Beck was at the University of Georgia and he was struggling. He was throwing picks. He was turning the ball over a lot. He was doing all kinds of things, and it looked like Carson Beck was not going to find his ground playing college football. But he came to Miami. He transferred here, and we all thought, okay, this is just going to be another deal where a player transfers to another school, and he's going to do the same thing he did at the other school, if not even worse. But Beck held his own, did his thing, and now we're looking at Georgia, who was got beat by Ole Miss out of the playoffs, and the former Georgia quarterback is leading this Miami team to the CFP national title game. So that's a storyline that I like. That storyline that I like because I live for stories like that because now he's proven to people that he actually is a good quarterback on a different team and everything like that. So shout out to Carson Beck. Shout out to Trinidad Chandler. He did have one of the best seasons ever. Coming out of Fair State, like I said, this was a big test for him. Obviously, I think he passed because the things he was able to do against that Miami defense was something that I've never seen before in a few weeks. And he did it. He rose up to the challenge, and it came down to a Hail Mary. That's all it was. And it just failed. So shout out to them two, man. Congratulations to Miami. They will go home. They're going back to Miami for the national title. Um, I don't know who they will be playing yet. One out of Indiana and Oregon, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see. We're gonna see. So, thank you guys for watching. That'll be the end of this podcast. I will post the instant reaction to the Indiana Oregon game tomorrow, and also I'll post a couple shorts from this little video that I just made right here. But thank you all so much for watching, man. I hope you all have a great rest of your night, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.